Hello, everybody again. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Anna Sparber, and I'm a product marketing manager at Tyco Security Products in North America. I'm based in Toronto, Canada. And joining me today are a senior product manager for Tyco Security Products, Neil Evans, who is also based out of Toronto, Canada, and Jonathan Jennings, and he is an area sales manager located in Birmingham, USA. Thank you, gentlemen. In today's webinar, we will review the key features and benefits of the PowerG wireless technology. And then what we really wanted to do today is focus on the benefits of early warning and ability to prevent intrusion from ever happening, thanks to our new outdoor PowerG detectors. So I will turn it over to Neil, who will give you an overview of the PowerG.
Great, appreciate it, Anna. Thank you, everybody. We really appreciate your attendance. We're going to be going through the next hour, focusing specifically on some of the wireless applications that we have, talking about some of the benefits, advantages you have with our PowerG wireless technology. So having said that, let's jump right into it. What are we here to talk about? We're here really to talk about wireless and PowerG. So talking about PowerG specifically, what we have is a long-range wireless protocol that was designed specifically for security applications. As we go through the presentation, and then I'm sure as you're talking to your customers and other folks, there's a lot of different wireless technologies available in the market, whether it be proprietary ones, whether it be more open protocols such as Z-Wave and Zigbee, but really PowerG was designed specifically for security as a leader. And we'll go into some of the reasons as far as why it's so good for those kinds of applications. Things like, it's a really robust technology with really long range. We're going up to 6,000 feet, open air conditions. That really blows away most of the open standards. With the Z-Waves, you have a couple hundred types of, or you have at best a couple 100 feet of range, and that's including with repeaters and everything. But PowerG really is specifically designed for those really long range applications. We have lots of channels that we actually communicate over. Each different channel allows the PowerG to choose the quote unquote cleanest paths. And really, as we start going through the portfolio of PowerG sensors, we'll see really the versatility of it. It's really designed for those kind of residential or commercial solutions, indoor, outdoor applications, and whether it be, a century-old, brick apartment that wasn't really designed, with any sort of wireless technology in mind, or new modern applications, it really does fit all of those needs. And another thing which we'll talk about a little bit is the cybersecurity aspects of it. We all keep hearing over and over again about, people hacking into systems. As we talk a little bit about some of the benefits for PowerG, we'll come to understand that it's not really just about, the internet-enabled devices. It's also the more discrete devices that work in customers' homes and commercial environments. Just move on to the next slide, please, Anna. Thank you. So, when I say we focused on security first, we didn't want some sort of overly complicated application. We understand that as the environment changes, it's a big difference between, your front light not turning on as opposed to, an intrusion sensor not activating. As we all know, really bad things can happen if you don't have that sort of reliability. So when we talked about PowerG, when we started creating it, we worked on it, 10, 15 years ago is when we started the idea, and we started actually developing, the protocol. What do we want? We want long battery life. We don't want to have truck rolls every year to replace batteries or anything of that nature. So a few things associated with that, signal strength optimization, being able to reduce the overall transmission level, really helps lower that increase the battery life by lowering the actual voltage, how often it has to transmit. Things like when you do an installation, you're no longer having to rely upon the keypad or some sort of audible indication. Each device has an actual LED built into it. And then really just the simplification of automatically enrolling, not having to put in serial numbers, and all of the remote configuration. You can't really talk too much about, you can't really, express how important that is. We've all been in the situation where you install, motion detector, something in the environment changes where you may have to increase or decrease the sensitivity of that detector. So historically, you have to go to do a truck roll, either, change a jumper, change some dip switches on a sensor, something of that nature. All of that can be done remotely, just using the programming application or DLS5. So really focused on, simplifying the installation, And also, probably just as important, when there's issues after the fact, being able to remotely identify and troubleshoot those issues is so important. So let's move on to the next slide. Now, really the topic of the day. So cybersecurity, we've all heard about it, mostly from a video sense. You don't want bad guys being able to peek into your cameras. You don't want someone being able to hack and spoof a system. And that's all very important, and that really should be top of the mind. Anything that's connected to the internet is somewhat vulnerable compared to the, well, I'm not gonna say good old days, but the old days of actually being able to just hook it up to a copper line and have a phone line connection. That also should be extended to, wireless technologies. You hear a lot in the news about, different one-way wireless technologies not being encrypted. So you can have bad guys go up and actually what they call a replay attack, which essentially is just retransmitting a previously understood wireless signal, which could theoretically disarm a system, or just jamming a signal, making it so that you can't actually, the intrusion device can't actually get any sort of, activation, deactivation, whatever, through to the receiver. And what that does, and that really, it allows someone to potentially break into a building without anyone ever having known. So when we designed PowerG, we talked about the simplification of the installation, we talked about the remote troubleshooting, but we really took a focus on, making sure we had the most secure wireless protocol out there. Things like the wireless encryption, so someone can't actually just, what they do is sniff it, and then do a replay attack. There's 50 different channels in North America that we transmit on, and PowerG is constantly jumping between all of those different channels. And what that does, that just helps ensure that the signals get through. PowerG is also a very, very intelligent type of protocol as well, where when there is interference or something happening in the environment, it automatically compensates. So, if nothing else from this entire conversation we have for the next hour, cybersecurity is super important when it comes to anything that's connected to the internet, but you also have to make sure that your local wireless types of solutions, whether it be, 100 square foot, type of apartment, or whether it be a large commercial complex, all of the wireless signals get through reliably and they're very secure, so they cannot be interfered with or hacked. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. Oh, nope. On the next slide, thank you. All right, so we talked about different types of technologies, and really there's a lot of different variations of each of these different types of technologies, but we kind of want to boil it down to 4 different types of applications. You have PowerG, you have the older one-way wireless communications, which really, it would transmit it, but there is no sort of indication or no sort of acknowledgement that would indicate that the receiver got the information. And then there's 2 newer types of not really open, but a little bit more standard protocols that are used in home automation, used for other types of wireless intrusion types of devices, Z-Wave and Zigbee. So if we look specifically at the comparison, the range, as I said, PowerG, first and foremost, it's a high range protocol. We do that by automatically adjusting signaling just to ensure reliability. And like I said, when we designed it, that was one of the very first things we thought about. Interference immunity, we really do jump around those 450 different channels to continually ensure that the signal gets through reliably. When you start talking one-way wireless, a lot of the times there's a much smaller amount of channels that actually transmits on. And when you talk Z-Wave and Zigbee, there's a very low amount of interference immunity because it's not really designed for security. As I mentioned earlier, your lights don't turn on, that's an inconvenience. A zone, whether it be a smoke detector or whatever, doesn't activate, that's a lot more an inconvenience. That's an actual life safety issue. So because it was designed for those long range communications, it's not a mesh network. It is a point-to-point communications, unlike Z-Wave and Zigbee. As you add in additional devices for those kind of protocols, the actual network gets a lot more stronger and more reliable because it has multiple paths. PowerG was designed not to need those additional paths. It's all developed directly in the actual wireless technology. So as such, you don't really need a lot of repeaters. I mean, there will be some instances, because we can't defy the laws of physics, where you do need those repeater type of applications, but generally speaking, it's a repeater-free installation. One way, because you don't have that range, there is a much larger need for those repeaters. And both Z-Wave and Zigbee, they're nothing but repeaters. They vary. If you have one device, you get a very, very low actual range. It's as you start adding in additional devices to start acting as the repeaters. That's where you start growing the network. And from all of that, the communication failures with PowerG, it's an extremely low probability of failures. We have so much redundancy built into it. We have so much adaptation to help compensate for changes in the environment built into it, that the actual communication failures very rarely, if at all, happen. So, kind of on a high level, you talk about older one-way technology, wireless technology that we used to use, 10, 15 years ago. Really, that's kind of useless in today's age. It's too risky. It doesn't give the range, it doesn't give the battery life. Z-Wave and Zigbee are awesome for those kind of applications, for more of the home automation, the stuff that doesn't have to be quite as reliable as what we have to do from an intrusion perspective. So really, that's what it's all really wrapped around. It's all wrapped around security, reliability, efficiency, and being able to troubleshoot when they do have issues occur afterwards. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide. So we actually have a couple questions for you guys. We want to start getting your feedback. So we want to just get a better understanding as far as, what kind of applications and how often you're using wireless devices. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to launch a poll. Really keep it simple. How often do you sell wireless sensors? So what we're going to do is we're going to give this about a minute or so. We're just trying to get an understanding, whether it be residential, commercial, how often are you actually, whether it be a wireless key fob or whether it be a full-blown wireless system, how often are you actually using wireless in your types of applications? So this can range anything from just wireless smoke detector in a basement to a large-scale commercial application. Really, it's anything. So just watching some of the results, which I will share with everybody in a minute as they're rolling in, see what everyone's doing. For the most part, people are using a lot of them, but it's actually a little bit more split up than I would have imagined. Interesting. Okay, we're going to give it about 15 more seconds. So everyone, please get your responses in. This is very important for us and for everybody, really, just to kind of share and understand. Okay, so T-minus 3, 2, 1. All right, let's close this one. Let's share the results and let's all have a look at it. So pretty much 29%, 50 to 75% of the applications, and 24% is about 75 to 100. And then 20%, that's actually the third one, that's 0 to 15%. So interesting. Lot, obviously, but well over 50% of intrusion systems going in these days use wireless, and really it goes down from there. Okay, excellent. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just close this one for the time being, and let's move on to the next slide, please. Okay, and I'm just going to ask for all of the other presenters, can you guys just all go on mute? There's a little bit of background noise, please. Okay, or a lot of background noise, please. Great, thanks everyone. Okay, so I mean, we've, if any of you guys have ever used any of the, wireless applications that DSC and others offer, we do have extremely large portfolio. I'm not going to go through all of this, but really the important thing is pretty much every sort of intrusion application, a lot of the actual lifestyle types of applications we have or we're developing sensors for. A little bit later on in the presentation, we'll go talk a little bit more about some of the newer ones, but all of the basics, whether it be motions or glass breaks or door contacts, those have all been around really since day one. Great, thanks guys. So let's move on to the next slide.
Thank you so much, Neil. I forgot to unmute myself. So Neil just showed us a really large portfolio of the PowerG devices. But today, as I said, we really wanted to focus on prevention. Because at Tyco, we do really believe in well-rounded solutions for detection and prevention practices. Traditionally, intrusion security focuses on detecting an unauthorized entry, then reporting it to the monitoring station and to the police. This leaves the intruder with minimum time on site. Hopefully, that minimizes the value of stolen property, limiting potential of the property owner coming face to face with that intruder, and that has been the main focus. Typically, that type of security system will have a door and window contact installed that would alert about the entry and the breach, and then the motion PIR is inside the property to monitor and confirm any movement. So we believe it's not good enough to just notify authorities about the break-in. What if you can learn about a potential threat lurking around the property and address it before the break-in? We believe that preventing intrusion is just as valuable as reporting it. We want to scare the intruder off, and with outdoor security devices, any potential threat can be detected early. The warning can be issued way before the entry point to the property is compromised. Like you can sound a siren, you can turn on the lights, and intruder can be scared off. There are various solutions that exist in the marketplace, yet often they're not considered in a traditional system just because of how expensive they are and how complex the installation is. And one of those solutions is a photo beam, for example. So Tyco addresses this problem with affordable wireless outdoor detection devices that utilize PowerG wireless and its superpowers, especially when it comes to the range, the ease of installation, and some other features which we'll discuss in detail shortly. So we understand that outdoor PowerG detectors can be an excellent benefit to your customers. The customers, however, don't always think about the outdoor security solution simply because they don't have the knowledge, and it's our job to properly explain and advise them the benefits of the outdoor prevention. However, these outdoor devices, they're not only about the benefit to your customers, they're also benefit to your businesses as well. So by using the PowerG outdoor solutions and offering them in every installation can significantly increase your potential revenue stream and grow the revenue from each installation quite substantially. And also, when you think about the current pandemic and the current economic situation, you don't always have to reach out for new customers. You could reach out to your current customer base and offer them an upgrade to the current system and add the outdoor devices to their system. And to do that, you actually never even have to enter their property because you can install the devices on the outside perimeter and program them remotely using the programming tools that are available. So we definitely see an opportunity here not only to improve the user experience for the security systems for your customers, offer them better value, better peace of mind, but also for you financially to improve the position of the business. So next, we actually wanted to ask you, how frequently do your customers ask you about the outdoor detectors? How often do they initiate this conversation? So Neil, if you can please run the poll now, that would be great.
Great, thanks, Anna. So really keeping the focus specifically in the outdoor types of applications that Anna just described. We're just trying to get an understanding. Our customers looking for this as an education, or are people starting to really transition to the more preventative, rather than wait for someone to break into your actual location, be notified and kind of scare them off before they actually break into the location. So we're going to give this, once again, about a minute or so. Let you guys, everybody, given everyone an opportunity to vote. This is watching all the results come in. Give it another 15 seconds or so. Give everyone a good chance. All right, so 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let's close this. Let's share the results with everybody. Okay, so I don't think really too surprisingly, for the most part, rarely. So really what we want to start focusing on and talking about is, some of those applications, just to, talk about what can be done. I think a lot of the challenges, especially here in North America, it's not really something that was done before. There's always been some sort of applications that go externally, but it's really a new type of concept for us. So it's pretty interesting, pretty cool. Okay, so let's just change this. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide then.
So now we would like to turn it over to Jonathan, and he is very well knowledgeable in all of the devices, and he will go through the applications and the technical aspects of each of them. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. As you can see here is a list of some of the devices we're going to be talking about. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. I'd just like to go ahead and just jump straight into it. So here's our PG99-4. This is an outdoor PIR detector that we've had for a number of years. I've had dealers actually use these, and not just for outside applications, but also for indoor, such as unheated or cooled warehouses. I've had customers use these on like fences for their pool, looking back at the house to be sure no one's actually in the pool area. So these are some other ideas that we can actually use in residential and commercial places, not only just for notifications of someone is there, but also, hey, is somebody using my pool when I'm not at home type of instance? Truck yard, warehouses, you know, is somebody actually trying to break in, so you can actually start being notified, or again, trying to scare people off before they actually start doing damage. Next slide, please. So as we're talking about this device itself, the first response that I usually get when I show this device off is, hey, that thing is kind of on the large side. And that is one feature that you can actually upsell using, is because it's a very thought out theft deterrent device, because it kind of does show up door, or again, my front door. Can somebody please go on mute? I can hear some background noise. Thank you. So it's basically the exact same thing. The IR illumination is going to shoot out to 32 feet. The camera can go just a little bit longer at 39 feet. So it's exactly like the other device, except now we do have that visual verification camera and IRs in it. So now we can actually get a picture of, hey, is that really a person there? So again, visual verification to, again, speed up the saying, hey, where this is actually a verified alarm. So maybe we can get some faster response time from the local police department. Next slide, please. One of the big things that I get asked about is exactly how do I mount this thing? And again, you always want to mount pointing it back at the house. You don't want it to be pointing, you know, out towards the street where it could be picking up anything. Like currently with the coronavirus, we have a lot of people are walking now in the evenings and stuff, and you don't want to be picking up all these people that are just walking up and down the street. So you definitely want to be picking up people that are in your yard or are approaching the house itself. So again, you want to point it at the house or at the structure you are trying to protect. Next slide. Just like any PIR, you have these fingers that actually shoot out, and you want to be sure you mount it where an individual is going to have to cross those fingers to be able to get access to the perimeter you're trying to protect. Again, you want to mount it kind of maybe at an angle, so you're going to have to trip multiple fingers to get there and not be able to walk up in between fingers and finally get detected when it's a little too late. So again, if you want to make sure this product is going to work properly, again, it's going to take out a little bit of planning to be sure we have this mounted in a specific place. And it's more than just a CCTV camera, because of course, you know, we always want to have as much protection as we possibly can when we're thinking about our loved ones and also the stuff that we're trying to protect inside the house. Next slide. A new device for us for PowerG is going to be this outdoor curtain PIR. So it's going to shoot out a very narrow PIR beam, and we can actually put this in a lot more places than we can the previous PG99-44. So front doors, electronic fences, gates, garage doors. One they didn't even have on here that we thought about is detached garages, barn doors, especially if they have those roller ones, because sometimes those things have a lot of play in them. So we can actually use this device and a device we're going to be showing later on in the presentation, which is an outdoor contact that we can maybe do some cross zoning to really cut down false alarms. Because, you know, we're all having these storms roll through, but while I'm talking, it's currently raining at where I am. The other day we had a severe thunderstorm come through here, and that's going to allow that door to have a lot of play. So again, a cross zoning type idea is going to cut down that false alarm and just not have the alarm go off and annoy our end user. So while we're also in this coronavirus, this PIR detector can actually pick up somebody and which direction they are moving. Next slide, please. I'm not sure if anybody else has been doing this, but for myself, we have started to have a little bit more delivery food to us during this whole episode of things that have been going on. And this is a really cool way to detect, hey, is somebody coming in the right direction up to my house? Because now we can actually distinguish up to pets up to 40 pounds with this device. Again, it's going to be a little bit different where the detector is actually at the bottom and not at the top. So that's going to be something new that some people have kind of put these in upside down and couldn't understand why they weren't working properly. So it is something you are going to have to be aware of. Again, this one also has anti-masking part of it, so it can recognize between spray paint or even dust on the detector itself. It is built to that IP55 certification for that outdoor and those environmental conditions. Next slide. So again, proper planning equals proper working style for that. And again, you do have to have this thing mounted. You can, with the detector itself, there is a bracket that has 15-degree steps in it. So we can actually get that thing mounted properly. You do want it shooting down on level type ground and not, shooting at the ground at an angle or anything. So you do have to be aware of certain characteristics to be sure it's actually going to work up to its full potential. Next slide. I talked about this a little bit earlier, that we can pick up and figure out which way people are actually walking. Is somebody walking up to the house? Is it a delivery person? Maybe I want to be notified of that. Or is it just kids playing ding dong dash type games? Again, some of that stuff's been going on in my neighborhood just simply because kids are actually just bored. We're kind of stuck at home. So we kind of want to be notified of what is going on, whether we're at home or away from home. Next slide, please. This is our outdoor contact itself. It's going to be a little bit bigger than what we're traditionally used to. It's a PG9312 is the part number for this. It's designed for those high traffic areas, whether it's residential, such as a gate or a fence line or something like that. And also will work great on commercial applications. Now, this thing, with some of the previous devices that we're talking about, have some new features built into it, and we're going to talk about those. Next slide, please. So, long-lasting battery life, up to 5 years with this thing. IP66 dust and waterproof enclosure is what this thing has. Anti-masking technology, which is really, really interesting on this type of device. So it can actually detect a different magnetic field. So you learn in the magnet itself, maybe somebody thinks they're going to be really trick and slick. I'm going to break into this place. I've got a magnet with me. I present that magnet to the contact itself. The contact can pick it up that the magnet field has actually changed, and then you can actually be notified of that type of accident. Using the Power Series Pro system, you can actually be shown the outdoor temperature with this device. Some of our newer PowerG devices are coming out with that temperature detector built into it. And this was one of the first ones that we actually had to be able to show outside temperature. And if you're like me, my wife asks me every morning, what's the temperature going to be today, or what's the temperature right now? Well, instead of me pulling out my weather app and hoping that it's actually accurate, because sometimes weather people do get things wrong, we can actually look on the app itself and say, wow, it's 83 degrees outside. For faster installations, you do have a pull tab device auto enrollment. So this is going to be something that we've actually been coming out with on our PowerG devices, that instead of opening up and pressing and holding down this learn button, we can actually pull the battery tab during the auto learn, and it's actually going to be able to see that contact, and we can go through the enrolling process. Next slide, please. So of course, since this is an outdoor rated contact, it does have an auxiliary input. And there's lots of different ways we can actually use that auxiliary input. Of course, it could be normally open or normally closed, nothing hard there. We could do double end of line resistance with this. We could do end of line normally open switch and an end of line normally closed switch also, to be sure we're looking at that anti, kind of takeover type device, or if someone's actually trying to sabotage that auxiliary input. Again, this device has got a nice wide gap. It's 1.75 inches is the max gap that we can have on this. So if case your gate or that fence doesn't always line up, really good, you've got kind of a nice area there that it's still going to work, unlike a traditional contact that maybe we're stuck at that 3/4 inch. This is going to give you a much larger range that you can actually have this thing work using just the magnet. And again, you've got that auxiliary input to be sure we're protecting what needs to be protected. Next slide. The wireless shock sensor. This is an absolutely wonderful product. So it is a shock sensor, and you can add an auxiliary input to this. It is adjustable. It's one of the few devices that I'm aware of that you actually can make the adjustment at the device, unlike the other ones where we're actually doing it all in the software in the background of this. So depending on what type of material this thing is getting bolted to or screwed onto is going to depend on how much sensitivity that shock sensor actually needs. Next slide, please. If we're thinking about applications of this thing, I have in my house this back door that's it's a double back door. So there is a little bit of play in that, And if you come up to the non-opening side, and of course you can open that by doing those little top and bottom things, that there is going to be a little bit of play there. So when the storms roll through, you kind of want this thing not as sensitive, so the door will have just a little bit of give before setting off a false alarm. But if someone actually wants to kick the door itself, whichever door, I want this thing to actually work properly. So you can actually go in and set the thresholds. There's 19 of them that can be set depending on what you're, again, installing this at, whether it's going to be glass, wood, aluminum, all these concrete, all these different things, because maybe somebody's trying to drill through the side of the building to gain access. In a commercial application, this is highly done. Maybe you're going to put this on a safe, such as a gun safe. So there's all types of different applications. We can actually use this wireless shock detector. But again, you've actually got to go in there and set that threshold to be sure it's going to go off. And that's where a lot of us kind of, we get in a hurry, we're getting a rush, and that's the first thing we forget, or we kind of jump over, because we're trying to get out the door. But when it comes to a shock sensor, it's something that you have to do. You've got to take the time to set the thresholds properly to make sure we're going to get the coverage that we actually need to out of this particular device. We're always wondering of, man, these wireless devices, how long the battery's going to last. And if you've been looking at the slides, you can see that prolonged battery life up to 5 years. So it's not something that you're going to be constantly, your customer is going to be calling you saying, hey, I got a low battery of XYZ device or something. So you're going to have that much longer range, unlike we used to have with those one-way transmitters that, we were constantly, it felt like we were changing batteries every year and a half. So we've actually taken out that, using that PowerG protocol that we have. Next slide, please. So again, it's got an auxiliary input. We can calibrate the device. We open up the cover itself. It's going to put us in that 15-minute window of us being able to make adjustments and stuff. And again, that auxiliary input can be normally closed, normally opened, end of line, and double end of line resistor. So in case we are trying to do some of that tamper type device to be notified on, that we actually do that on that double end of line type of resistor. Again, you want to lower that threshold for higher sensitivity. So, for those harder materials, such as concrete, steel, some things that don't want to give a whole lot. And also you can think about using these type of devices to save a lot of your labor expense. These are wireless. You're not going to be at that customer's job multiple, days trying to run this wire run to make these devices actually work. Again, this is wireless. It's going to go in much faster. So you're going to actually be saving a lot of your labor time. And again, labor is extremely expensive, whether you're doing commercial or residential work. As I know, in residential, sometimes your drill bit goes in places you don't want it to. It can be extremely costly. Next slide, please. Wireless glass break detector. We talked about, Anna went over, how many times, such as residentials get broken into, and the majority of it, they're either coming through the front door or the back door, and that's going to be 56% of break-ins are going to come through those two entry points. So what we can do with this is sometimes burglars like to see if anybody's home or not, and they will actually throw a brick or a rock through a window. A lot of us have, glass in our windows, we have glass around our doors. So you kind of want to be aware if something's going on to help find out if someone is trying to break into your house. We can go ahead and scare them off before, things start happening at that particular location. Scare them off before, or be sure they're only on site for a very limited time. Now, one of the things that we might be experiencing is some audio issues, and that can be because so many people are using webinar types applications, so takes up a lot of bandwidth, so you might hear some audio input is kind of breaking up a little bit. So I apologize for that, but again, there's so many of us doing this during the day, such as schools and universities. Next slide, please. So let's talk about this glass break detector. It can work up to 25 foot as going to be your maximum range. It's a thing, it's going to work on plate, tempered, laminated, wired, coated type of glass. So it's not just one type of glass, which is really nice. Again, it's cutting edge technologies to really cut down on false alarms. You're not going to actually have to go in here and do and adjust that sensitivity that a lot of technicians actually forget about. It's actually already programmed into this thing with an advanced algorithm to get this thing to work to distinguish between different types of glass itself. This device does have that pull tab installation. So once you get the panel that you're actually learning this into an auto learn motion, we're going to pull the tab and learn in the ESN number, that electronic number of this particular device. Of course, it does have low battery indication at the device, and it will be saying a trouble condition on the keypad itself. Next slide, please. So here's actually some ways that we can install this particular device. Minimum size is going to be 5 foot from the glass. Again, maximum is going to be 25, and it's going to work depending on where it's going to be. It doesn't always have to be mounted at the ceiling itself, and you can see this by the slide below. Next slide, please. So some more installation tips. You can see here we have different angles that we can actually mount this glass break to. Again, the max range is going to be 25 feet between the installation point and the glass that you are protecting. Next slide. Now, a big thing that some of us forget about, and you really want to do this to separate yourself from your competition, is being able to test the glass break. With this particular glass break, we have 4 different methods of testing the glass break. Another good way to get in with the end user is be sure you take time and explain to them why you're doing this. You want to be sure you're testing the glass break, that it's actually going to work properly for them. So you want to make sure they feel safe and secure in the environment that you are protecting. Next slide, please.
Well, and now we actually wanted to find out from you guys what kind of outdoor devices, outdoor protection you may be interested in for all of your projects. So Neil, could you please launch the next poll?
Okay, great. Thanks, Anna. So you should see the 3 basic types, the outdoor types of sensors, beam detectors, and gate contacts. One other thing was other types of applications, things that maybe we haven't understood yet, we haven't thought of yet. A lot of questions about different types of sensors, adding new types of sensors in. This is just one more layer that we want to start getting you guys feedback in. So while you may not be able to actually type in the specific types of sensors, definitely send us an email, put it in the questions, some other types of the sensors that maybe you guys are thinking of for your customers. So what we'll do is we'll give this one about another 15-20 seconds. for just complete all the responses before we share the results. Okay. All right, seems to slow down. So actually we'll end this one right now and share the results. Okay, so kind of more of a generic outdoor type of sensor. That's number one. Number two would be gate contact. So that new outdoor gate contact that John had spoken about, that's definitely great applications. And beam detectors, and that is something definitely we're going to be looking at for future development. So cool, this is really helpful. As I said, there are other specific ideas. Definitely feel free to get in direct contact with us. We're always looking for great new ideas coming from the field to start looking on the next generation of PowerG. So let me just close this up, hide it. Okay, turn it back over to Anna.
Thank you, Neil. And thank you, John, for a really good, thorough description of all the features and benefits of those new devices. This really brings us to the end of the presentation on the preventative benefits of the PowerG outdoor detectors. And also, we hope that you really had a good view of the many applications for different installations all around the perimeter of the property. And this is not just a residential solution, of course, this is for both residential and commercial properties, front, sides of the building, back of the building. Applications are endless. So we were excited to share the insights of offering this preventative protection to your customers. And we were also excited to be able to help you and give you another opportunity to grow your business even during these challenging times. So we do have some time to answer your questions. Also wanted to let you know that we will be sharing the copy of this deck along with the poll question results shortly with everybody in attendance, so you can have it as your reference. Please feel free to reach out to your local sales team to answer any device-specific questions. Also, I know that we currently have a roster of education events that our technical trainers and salespeople like Jonathan are hosting on a regular basis, and the schedule is posted on our website. So if you go to the dsc.com, one of the banners, save the shortcut on your desktop. This will give you access to a currently updated training seminar schedule, so you can have more of the technical questions answered for yourself. So I'll kick it off with the first question, and I'll leave it with Neil and Jonathan. So question comes, besides labor savings, what other benefits are there between wireless and hardwired systems? This comes from a definite pushback of wireless installs. I think it's a fantastic question. So Neil, Jonathan, take it away.
Okay, great. Thanks, Anna. Well, actually, you know what, John, you want to answer? You have a lot of real world experience. What I've heard is actually wireless, as it's starting to evolve, is actually starting to become more and more secure than even traditional hardwired. You don't have to worry about broken wires in the wall, which can be an absolute nightmare to troubleshoot. So as you start putting in wireless types of sensors where traditional hardwired sensors may have gone, it's actually becoming more and more reliable with all the encryption and all of the different methodologies that we use to ensure communications. Is there anything else you're hearing, John?
Yes, sorry, I was trying to talk and I had myself muted. So
Where
I
do we get that?
apologize for that.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. But exactly what Neil was talking about is cut wires, not only for residential or commercial applications, but you can have, I'm trying to say this as nice as I can, you can actually have varmints get in there and chew through wires. I've been on several installations where that's exactly what's happening. It's a hardwired system, everything was working great, but now the walls are sealed up. There's no way to run that wire again. The wires are definitely damaged. Or if you had learning, and this is a question that a lot of dealers have out there, is they're always looking for new people, and maybe they strained the wire because they didn't realize that you're not allowed to pull the wire box through the rafters. That's a big no-no, and you strain that wire. So once you actually finally get that wire to where it needs to be, the wire is no good to begin with, and you've already paid for that labor to be there. It's just not going to work. So it's much easier to come back, with a wireless contact than it is to try to rerun wire in certain applications, especially homes are really starting to go to that sprayed foam insulation, where if you didn't put a wire in there before, there's no way of being able to run that wire, because they definitely don't want to see a drill, because they're supposed to have that high R value in that particular application. So again, wireless is a game changer. I've had people that have finally broken down and have tried a wireless system, whether it's been a Neo or a Power Series Pro, and these are the type of installers that, if you would ask them last year, would I ever install a wireless contact, they would tell you no. I don't want the hassle, I don't want the headache, a hard wire is always going to work. But once they see the reliability and also how far that wireless contact can work, it is really a game changer. And again, the end user on a commercial application, maybe they don't want to see you there for 5 straight days, running wire all over this warehouse, because it's Murphy's Law. Wherever you put your ladder or your skylift, they need to be in that particular section. It seems to always happen on installations that I help out with. Wherever we're trying to be is they're trying to work in the exact same area. So, now we're just pushing that install times getting larger and larger, because we both need to be in the same area, and we're breaking up their productivity.
Perfect, John. Thank you.
The other comment with that too is someone actually made a comment is that also leads to a lot of cost certainty, right? Since you don't have all of those variables, especially in commercial types of applications, you know what your installation costs are going to be. So that's another huge advantage to wireless.
Perfect. And that leads to one of the questions that came through again, if these outdoor detectors are residential only or suitable for industrial use. And I think you just got a good flavor of absolutely, you definitely can use these in commercial applications with very similar benefits to residential ones as well. Neil, do you want to take over the next question?
Yeah, for sure. So I was just jotting down a few of them as we went through. So there's a lot of questions about specific types of sensors. So what I would suggest everyone to do is, because there was such a huge variety of questions, we are going to be responding to all the questions via email, but also talk to your local sales manager or technical sales trainer like John. If that way we can have a little bit further discussions as far as what kind of other sensors maybe we offer currently, and what are the types of things, you guys give us information, what other kinds of things are you looking for wireless applications in the future? So a lot of questions around that. Another big one was, the outdoor contact. Someone had asked, can you run a wire? Absolutely. It's either got the built-in magnetic reed switch. It's also got a built-in auxiliary terminal, just like most other types of wireless sensors. So you can mount that outdoor, run some sort of protected wire to the application that was described was for, cutting the fence. So you can just have a contact or whatever coming off of a fence type of connection. Maybe it's being supervised somehow. Have that trip one of the outdoor sensors, it's not just a gate sensor, and have that communicate back through to your intrusion panel. So a lot of applications. The outdoor contact, you can use the magnet with it, or you have that input as well. Plus it's a supervised input. So you can have double end line resistors if you have some sort of supervised device that you want to know, if it's being tampered or anything like that. So a lot of cool applications.
Hey, Neil, let me just jump on that one just real quick on that outdoor contact. This is something that I helped the dealer out with, and I just finally popped back in my head, is that with a commercial building, you usually have that nice green, dumpster can out there, out back somewhere, right? And they were actually they were getting fined by the trash pickup company for having toxic material in their trash can, and they didn't know who was causing it. Who was actually dumping stuff in our trash can at a commercial location. So what they did is they put a camera, looking at that trash can, but also a contact. So they knew when that trash can was being, opened, they could actually have a time reference to go back to and find out who was actually putting toxic material in their dumpster. So it was an out of the box type of application that I thought was really interesting. I just wanted to share it.
Cool. I've never heard of that one before. That's awesome. Okay. Another question had to do with the outdoor camera, the outdoor PIR camera, whether it was kind of a video stream or a series of images. So the way that the visual verification, whether it be the indoor or the outdoor, it's actually a series of 10 still images that are kind of stitched together to give you a 5-second post alarm, both audio and visual. So whether it be outdoor or indoor, the detector sees motion and it then takes a 5-second film, for lack of a better description, which is really 10 still images, 1 second apart, kind of stitched together. The visual verification is not really designed so much as far as to identify the who, it's to be able to get that information to someone who can react on it as quickly as possible. So that's the way that, you know, with the PIR cameras, indoor and outdoor, all function. So I hope that answers that question. The other question I saw had to do with the temperature sensing and how it's being displayed. So I just want to kind of cover that one again. So currently the PIR Series Pro, when you have any of the sensors, which the standard indoor motion detector, the glass break, the outdoor gate type of gate alarm, they all have built-in temperature sensing. There's a couple of ways we're displaying it. So number one, on the keypad, you know, whether it be a touchscreen or LCD keypad, it'll show that. But we also provide that information to our partners. So I know currently Alarm.com, you know, they're the main partner for both the Neo and the PIR Series Pro. They're working on actual integrating that information. So that's something that will be added in sometime in the future with them. Where I've seen it actual functional is there's another question had to do with the integration capability of both the Neo and the Pro. So folks like Cantech, American Dynamics, Software House, all of the other tyco companies integrate directly with both the Pro and the Neo. And they get that same information as well, all the temperature monitoring. So now all of a sudden, whether it be an outdoor detector, indoor detector, motion, glass break, whatever the different kinds of applications are, you're not only getting the state of it, you know, is it an alarm, is it open, is it closed, but we're also providing that information. So you do have a partner that does, you know, support the integration currently with the Pro. You know, that's something that's readily available to them. I can't say specifically who has implemented it yet, but that has been available for a few years now. So really appreciate the questions there. Let me just have a quick look to see if there's any other questions that came up. So it looks like we kind of answered most of them. We have, what, a few more minutes left, so 4 more minutes left. So essentially, John, Anna, is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Again, Anna brought it up that we are having us technical people out in the field. We are putting on webinars moving forward. And if you just want to check our website to see exactly what you want on, there's ones on DLS5, like our programming software, you know, how to use it effectively, you know, from what I call from the front end to the back end of, you know, where do I find it? Where do I get it? Where do I download it? What's the different versions? How do I make the connection? So they're going to go over all that type of stuff. We're having ones on like the programming app itself. I've got one of those Wednesday afternoon, for instance, of being able to use that programming app for the PIR Series Pro. You know, where do you find it to download it? We're going to go from, you know, exactly what you need, the Wi-Fi dongle, the whole yard, to programming up a panel itself. So those are actually listed on our website. If there's particular product training you want to do, like a product spotlight, we're starting to do some product spotlight of each of these individual PowerG devices, how they work, how you get them learned into the system itself and to get them to work. Again, we're here for y'all. What kind of things do you want to see? Those are the classes we would like to put on. So please feel free to reach out to any of us, your local salesperson, your local technical guy, and we'll have classes that you guys actually want to attend.
Perfect. Well, Neil, John, thank you so much for being so informative and so helpful today. Just also wanted to thank our audience for spending the last hour with us. Please never hesitate to reach out to your local salesperson with any questions you might have. Check out our website for the schedule of events and some literature on all of these devices. And we hope to host you again next month for the next webinar in our regular roster of webinars with informative information created just for you. So we will share the deck with you. Send more questions if you have them, and have yourself a fantastic day. Thank you, everybody.
Great, thanks everyone. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Okay.